So let's face it, the situation with the coronavirus is, in my opinion, insane asylum. Because nothing has been defined. We don't know right now as a society what are we fighting. The immediate question that comes up, are we fighting the spread of infection or are we fighting the death rate? Because if we're fighting the death rate, then in United States right now it's about 1%, maybe 2%. If we're fighting the spread of infection, we have seasonal cold/flu epidemic that spreads every year. Nobody's fighting that. It is the same transmission mode through the aerosol droplets from person to person, airplanes, movie theaters, shopping malls, all of the workplace, all of the same categories that we are trying to eliminate right now. Social contact. So the question is anything rational, or are we just stumbling, trying to walk on a ship in a storm? Like when maybe cruise ship is a bad example right now, but if you're in a cruise ship and it's a major storm and you're trying to get from point A to point B, you're stumbling all over the place, hitting the walls, grabbing anything. There is nothing there that helps you to walk upright and stay straight. So you're just helping yourself to try to get from point A to point B. And if you fall, so be it. If you hit the wall, so be it. If you stumble and break something, so be it. It is what it is. And that's what we are doing right now, because what is our goal? As a general, humanity doesn't ask those questions. We don't care what goals are. We're just trying to get from buying one iPhone to the next one, from buying one car to the next one, from buying one house to the next one. These are our goals that define the humankind. But whatever, in this particular situation, sarcasm aside, let's just ask a question. What is the goal? If we're fighting the spread of infection, then my question is, are we going to do it every year from November to March, including November and March, so that we try to prevent the spread of the annual seasonal, so to speak, cold/flu epidemic, which is pandemic, which is global. We know it happens every year. Nobody's fighting it. It spreads exactly the same mode of transmission. It attacks exactly the same demographic in exactly the same risk factors. We have millions of people die from it every year, even though, the way the healthcare treats that, it's a default state when you die from the flu, because, if they cannot tell that somebody died from the heart attack, that they can verify. If you didn't die from pneumonia, that they can verify. If you didn't die from cancer, that they can verify. If you didn't die from a serious septic bacterial infection, that they cannot verify. If everything is eliminated, and there's been rumors that you've been coughing and sneezing prior to your death, then you probably died from the flu. That's what they will put down, seasonal flu. Nobody will test you to verify what particular virus or combination of those you actually died from. Nobody ever does. Even if you're living, when you go to doctor every year, let's say, of course, not all of us get the so-called flu/cold every year. But if you go to doctor when you have high fever, you cough and sneeze, you feel like crap, the doctor will not assign you to go to test to verify what particular virus you have. They will tell you, stay home if you can, rest, drink fluids, take vitamins. If you have high fever, take whatever, Tylenol. That's it. That's the level of typical address for this issue by the healthcare. And again, let's remember, it spreads exactly by the same mode of transmission, exactly the same demographic is in risk. And it happens every year, from around November to the end of March. And so my question is, are we going to do this, what we're doing right now, every year? Because if we're fighting the spread of the aerosol mode of transmission of viral infection, and again, coronaviruses are about 40 to 50 known, which are part of the seasonal cold/flu epidemic. They're part of it. And this one will be there too after this year. So are we gonna do this? Or are we gonna introduce some kind of more meaningful medical situation, like from November 1st, hypothetically, to March 30th, the entire population of the world will be provided the appropriate air masks by their governments as a benefit to being taxpayer, and because that would be even more efficient and the best scenario that we can do to prevent the contagious effects of these aerosol transmitted viruses. Just wear appropriate masks. And yes, of course, considering that 99% of these masks, because they create positive negative pressure across the filters, and you cannot wear a complete head mask that will be on the par with NASA space astronauts. Basically you cannot be in a space suit, so the air, because of this pressure differential across the filter, will travel outside of that mask, in the spaces between your skin and the mask, a lot more than normally. But even considering that, you will still have a lot better chance of not being infected by it than without the mask. And because it's a aerosol transmitted mode of infection, this is the primary mode. Yeah, of course. All this, everybody is right now jumping around about all this hand sanitizers and what's not. Those are, essentially useless products, okay? Because this is the reality of any kind of sanitizing product. First of all, under best circumstances, it doesn't work 100%. So that is already there. Number two, you have to establish a periodic wiping in the same manner, using appropriate wiping technique of aseptic approach. And it has to be done in such way that you establish constant presence of this sanitizer on each point of the surface throughout. Why? Because there is a cycle of deposit, let's say, of the viral particles, which is continuous, number one. There is a time that it takes for those particles to lose ability to perform their duty. And remember, viruses, they're not technically living entities because they don't have any physiology or biological process within themselves. They're just basically a genetic mine that's waiting to be able to hook up to some kind of cell using hydrophilic process, by the way, which means it has to be non-oil based, and then deposit that genetic material into the cell, and then for that genetic material to be uptaken into the nucleus of that cells, and then hook up to the cell machinery and start reproducing itself. And that's where the virulence point comes in, how efficiently can do each virus, and depends on the person's susceptibility and their immunity level for the healthy individual. So all of these things combined make it a process. But occasional wiping of hands in a random fashion here and there using random sanitizers over a random period of time is pretty much a useless activity. It's a waste of time. And some people say, well, it's better than nothing. No, it's nothing, okay? The reason, unfortunately, in this particular situation and approach, there is effective methods and useless methods, and this is gonna be a useless one. Okay, so and again, they don't call it aerosol transmission for nothing. It means that's the primary mode. Okay, not by hands, not by eating it. It's by uptake into your air passages and it being deposited somewhere where it can actually hook up. And remember, your hands, your skin, oil on your entire body is the main source of protection. Okay, the virus cannot hook up through the oil layer because it needs to have a hydrophilic connection point between proteins, and the oil on the skin is your better protection. So by actually using alcohol, you're removing that oil and you actually provide more opportunity for the virus to hook up with your susceptible cells. Maybe you have a minor cut that you don't know about, but now that you have scrubbed off effectively the layer of that oil from your skin using this whole alcohol-based hand sanitizer, you opened a door for this virus to get directly into contact with that open small lesion, and that is the pathway for it now. And because you're doing it kind of randomly and not systemically and not on a schedule, the hand sanitization basically, you don't actually remove those viruses. They're there and they're healthy, okay? And you actually, believe it or not, causing more harm by doing that very frequently, okay? And each of these hand sanitizers, they have a time in which they're efficient too, okay? So it's not instant killing. So anyway, those things are very complicated, and this industry exists basically for the peace of mind. There is not really anything else that you can do. It's different when you're using surfaces like tables and, car handles, whatever. It's a little bit different because it's a smoother surface. And if you do it again regularly, let's say every 30 minutes, you continuously wipe it in the same direction using one wiper each stroke, this will help. Your hands, no. Okay, so, and gets it back to the original point. So are we gonna do it every year? Are we gonna have everybody wear a mask, everybody having social distancing? I mean, we can do that, but are we gonna do it? I don't think so. So what we're doing right now, again, it's inconsistent with our general approach. It does not make sense. It's not productive. We're not doing it with seasonal cold flu epidemic, pandemic, which happens nobody calls it that, but it is what it is. So that cannot be that, or we shouldn't even call it that. That's just that's not the approach we're doing. We're not fighting the spread of infection. We are reacting in a panic mode to the news cycle. And the politicians protect themselves by saying, I did something. And everybody thinks they're actually doing a lot of good, which basically doesn't work with our whole human society situation, where we have the money, which is artificial thing in the world, and we live to get the money, which has nothing to do with this planet. And our cycle is to get from point A to point B between buying the new phones, the new cars, the new houses, getting married and divorced, which has nothing to do with the planet. And well, it doesn't work with us. We're trying to prevent a planet cycle, which is a viral mutation and a spread within the population with a very low mortality rate. And we do it at once in a while, not every year, although it happens every year. Makes no sense. And then the second question, do we fight the death rate? We can't. We have no drugs for viruses, okay? And all these things that are being thrown around, they're just panic modes, and some other people who are trying to make money. They're not efficient, they're not effective, they're not really something that you can use as a drug for the population. They're not been verified to do anything, and viruses generally don't have drugs against them. I mean, there are attempts to generate some drugs, because remember, viruses don't have any physiology, so to speak of, like all other biological entities. And so all drugs operate by creating pharmacological effect by introducing some kind of break in the physiological process. They make certain processes not to perform, and that begins to wind the organism down into death. Okay, and some processes are attacked and they're more efficient, some are less efficient, but organisms slowly develop resistance to all these processes, and so they have to find new ways to attack those processes, and that's why they're a little bit less efficient sometimes. But they're constantly searching, and sometimes they find good ones, sometimes they're not so good ones. But with the viruses, really very, 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 very few points to attack it, okay? And very few successful attempted drugs even being thought of. Forget the actual creation and implementation. So the only possibility with viruses is to have some kind of immunity developed against them, and that's what everybody is waiting for. But those things take time to develop. You have to get sick and then have your own natural immunity, or you just have to wait for vaccination. But vaccinations take time to prove that they work, number one, and then they have very long time for production. It takes about almost 6 to 9 months to produce a vaccine, even like on the batch scale. So that's not going to happen this year, basically. So the whole thing is quite irrational in terms of human social normal approach to doing things. And if we want to start changing our whole social structure and way to do things, we're not going to like it, because people will say, I don't like, because what the changes we will have to make will make us all feel very, very uncomfortable living day-to-day lives, and unhappy and struggle like on way we perform our human functions day to day, like living. Okay, the whole society is organized about us living life the way we like it. not being rational or make sense. It's about the way we like it, okay? And if anybody is interested about this major discussion point, read Socrates and his whole thing with arguing with the citizens of Athens. And short end to this point that he had to kill himself because people said, dude, we don't care about all your... It's great, you're suggesting a lot of great things and it all makes sense, and maybe on some other planet with some other social societies it would work, but not here. We don't need it, and we're tired of you because you can't shut up. You bug us, so there, die or shut up. And he couldn't shut up, so he died. But that just proves the point. We're not going to change our ways of doing things. And we're going to say, okay, look, let it be. This is no worse than a regular seasonal pandemic of flu and cold. And let's just let it be. It is what it is. Sometimes things happen. We don't have any solution to it. And boom. But we're not going to change our way of life, priorities. Okay? And bottom line, the whole thing is really good for the stock market because it's gonna clear this bubble of overpriced stuff that grew. It's been itching to do it for a couple of years, actually. And actually it will do it on something that does not affect anything. There are not many people who die from it at all. There are not many people, so population is not affected, consumer base is not affected. Everybody just will deflate the value of, so they can start growing again, like again, going back to ancient Greek mythology, the myth of Sisyphus, when he keeps forced to roll the boulder up the mountain, and just before he reaches it, the top of the mountain, the boulder is forced out of his hand and drops back so he can start over again. And that's what we do. This is our human way of life. From one iPhone to another, from one house to another, from new car to the old car to the new car. Perpetual cycle of nothing. There are no major goals, The last time we went to the moon was 60 years ago, and we're not really achieved anywhere further. We did it as, okay, cool, we don't care. We like watching TV and playing video games. We don't have a goal. We don't care. As a humankind, we don't care about big goals. That's not what our life is all about, our way of life. And so, why are we doing this? Because we're nuts. Literally, we are nuts. That's why we're doing this with this population. Because our systems are designed to react. It's like government, it's like police. They always come after things already happen. Whatever they're doing is not helping anybody. It's making things worse, obviously, yeah. Because, when the car crashes, police is not there to prevent it. They come and they close the intersection for the next half a day, making things worse for everybody else. Will they solve it? And will they help this for not to happen in the future? Usually not even. And this is what government does here again. They making things worse. They come after the fact. Look, they say they discovered that this is new virus. Again, we don't test for viruses during the regular flu season. So, somebody who has some weird symptoms, people eventually test it. It doesn't mean it started right there and then. It started way before, okay? We just didn't test anybody for this virus. Nobody knows. And then our ability to test people was growing with the spread of infection, which started even before that, the spread of infection part. And so, is the fact that we're reporting high results every week or every month is the actual spread of infection, or is it our ability to test new people who have it? And the fact that you have it doesn't mean anything is bad with you, Might as well have still flu in your blood or some. And flu is caused by about 50, 80, whatever, 190 viruses that are circulating in a pandemic every year. So, we're nuts. Okay, I mean, again, I'm glad it's doing it for the whole sports stock market because people gonna make a lot of money. It will start the growth cycle again, and everything is gonna be good from that perspective. But and it's doing something, avoiding some kind of crash like 2008, which was a real crash which nobody kind of saw coming, and then they scrambled how to fix it, and they fixed it by creating artificial money and unlimited supply. For some people, of course. Some other people still have to live under Adam Smith capitalism. But with that aside, I mean, I don't really know anything, but look, this is kind of insane. I don't have any other word for it. I mean, this is insane, and we're not gonna do it every year, so why now? Why bother? It's not gonna help really overall with anything. Okay, so many people die from all kinds of disease every year. Nobody even knows that they were sick because they don't go to hospital because they can't, and even if they go to emergency room and die there probably most of the time. And again, if nobody can determine like about a dozen basic reasons for dying, they will be said they died from like flu if it's the winter. Yeah, but so many people lives for this couple 2-3 months that this will be going on, this insanity, this intersection closure by the police. People will be so uncomfortable, they will suffer, they will hate, they will have really, really bad mood, really, really bad attitude, really, really bad treatment for their kids and each other, and that's it. It's just a lot of people will have a lot of issues, and nothing really will be solved yet again because the governments never solve anything so far. History teaches us that it's like 99% success rate, no solutions, causing more problems. I know, I'm done. Thanks.